Hi. Today is Wednesday, the 18th of November 2020. And I've made, I'm going to call this umami heaven soup. It's really full of umami flavor. I have a number of things in there which give it that umami flavor. Basically, this dish is a three-step, this soup is a three-step process. First, I took 4 cloves of garlic, which I peeled and just hit so that they're cracked. Put them aside. Then I took 1 medium onion. It was one of those Indian purple onions. They were cheap. They were on sale, marked down at Sergi Fresh. 1 whole packet was only 2 ringgit, so I bought 1 packet. Normally I buy rose onions, but they've run out. And I've asked one of the workers what happened to the rose onion. I got conflicting answers. One worker said that they don't seem to be able to get the supply, possibly because the onions are seasonal and now it's not the season for harvesting onions. Maybe it's a rainy season or whatever. The other worker told me that somebody came and bought 35 kilos and came back the next day and bought another 40 kilos. And I was just wondering, what would people want to do with 75 kilos of rose onions? Then it occurred to me that they may be pickling it for achar. Onion achar, pickled onions, because they're ideal for that. Anyway, I put the onions and the garlic in my Philips pressure cooker. I have a model HD 2149/62. And I put a few dashes of Chinese black vinegar, about the equivalent of 2 or 3 tablespoons. I didn't measure it, I just poured it. And then I gave it a good stir and closed the pressure cooker and set it on the lowest cycle. I think it was congee mode, for 13 minutes. So what happens is it would actually saute the onions without oil, and the acidity from the black vinegar would actually accelerate the reaction. It's called the Maillard reaction, which will reduce the starches in the onions to sugar and give the soup a sweet flavor. So after it's done, I waited half an hour, 20 minutes for the pressure cooker to cool down. I opened it and then I added more ingredients. I added 2 king oyster mushrooms. So now these king oyster mushrooms have to be cut in a specific way to get the maximum taste and flavor out of them. You cut them transversely. In Malay you call it krat. So you basically cut them into coins about half a cm thick. And then on each side you score it. You score about 4 or 5 times. And then you rotate it 90 degrees. And you score it again 4 or 5 times. So you get a crisscross pattern on each side. So do it for both sides of your king oyster coin. And then I also used the brown Shimeiji mushrooms. They didn't have any white ones yesterday, but I went a day before yesterday, but I went to Sergi Fresh yesterday and they had white Shimeiji. So for my next batch, I'll be using white Shimeiji mushrooms. What else did I put in? I've got 1 packet of baby sweet corn. Bloody expensive, I tell you. They're like 50 cents each. They were $2.49 for 5 baby sweet corns. So this was an indulgence, actually. Baby sweet corn gives a sweet flavor, just like the sauteed and what do you call it? The reduced onions would give sweetness. And then I've got vegetables to give some bulk and fiber. So I've got half a chayote, which I cut into juliennes like French fries, and then I cut them transversely into dice. Yeah. And I forgot to buy carrots, so I ran out. I juiced all my carrots, so I didn't have any carrots. Usually I like to put carrots in my soup because they give a certain sweetness, but no carrots this time. My purple cabbage, I bought half a purple cabbage yesterday, used a little bit, so I got a quarter of a purple cabbage which I shredded and put inside. It's more for the fiber rather than the taste. Cabbage, once it's made into soup, doesn't taste of anything really. But purple cabbage has more nutritional value than white cabbage, but they're also more expensive, so you might want to balance that and weigh the pros and cons. But in any case, most of the pigment, the antioxidants in the pigments will be destroyed by the heat. So if you're going to use it for soups, I think white cabbage would work fine. But if you're going to eat them raw in salads, I think purple cabbage would be preferable. I don't buy much. I buy half a small cabbage at one time, about $1, 1 ringgit 80 cents or 1 ringgit 90 cents, about that range, just under 2 ringgit. So I'm not particularly price sensitive when it comes to purple cabbage. Okay, what else? Chayote, cabbage. Oh yes, I've got tahu. So I've got fried tahu. I got the small one. So one piece is a bit long. It looks like, those chicken nuggets or fish fingers. So I cut them into 3 or 4, depending on how big they are. And so I put all these vegetables and the tahu into the pressure cooker, and then I close it, and then I leave it on keep warm mode for half an hour. Then when I come back in half an hour, you can just open the lid. There's no pressure involved. All the mushrooms and the vegetables sort of sweated nicely, and there's quite a bit of like juice, like almost sauce at the bottom. So in another pot, I bring some water to a boil. I put some, what's that word? I forgot the name in Japanese. It's quite onaguru or onagari or something. Mehijiki. Anyway, it's a brown algae. It has a very strong umami taste, and it's quite interesting. One packet is quite expensive though, $6.50. I used half a packet. I think you're supposed to use 1 packet at a time, but I just thought first time I'm using this particular seaweed, so I thought I'd just try half a packet first and see how it goes. So that went into the water together with the onions and the vegetables that had been steeping in the pressure cooker. And then I brought it to the boil and let it boil for just 2 minutes, okay? Because most of the stuff in here can be eaten raw except for the mushrooms, but the mushrooms have already been slow cooked on keep warm mode for half an hour. So they're relatively cooked. They just need some high temperature for 2 minutes to get all the flavors into the water that I've put in. Just put slightly more water than to cover the, the vegetables and the mushrooms. And then I scooped them and put it into this bowl. I had 1/3 of this chamcha with Taucu halus, which is what I call the cheap cement version of miso paste. 1 jar is about $4.50 or so, whereas miso paste could be between 25 to 32 ringgit for the real McCoy stuff from Japan. So being a cheapskate guy like me, I want the most nutritional bang for my buck. So basically it's the same thing, fermented soybeans. Don't use the whole Taucu, the kasa ones, the one which you can see individual beans or soybeans. They don't taste the same. So I dissolve that in here after I've poured the soup into this bowl. There's the king oyster mushroom there. That's the sweet corn here. The king oyster mushroom. Yeah, you can see the scoring on the side. And I put some fried shallots and some chives and scallion, which I've cut up and put in here, but they've kind of disappeared. I did put quite a lot, but they seem to have disappeared. Anyway, I gave it a taste. It's a very nice combination of sweetness and umami with a little hint of saltiness. So it's really nice. I have soft tofu in the fridge, as well as enoki mushrooms and garden peas. So I'll add that tomorrow as my soup gets less and less and I add more water. I just bring it to the boil, add those ingredients, and let it, blanch for a minute or two. And it'll be fine. You know, garden peas you can eat raw. The enoki would cook very fast because they're like mihun, they're very thin, and they'll cook very quickly. The important thing with mushrooms is that you have to cook them, even the ones that you can allegedly eat raw, because they have some cancer forming compounds in them which are destroyed by heat. So it's important to cook mushrooms before you eat them. Okay, I've had some bad news. iMovies wouldn't work on my iPad, and iPhotos haven't been working for a while. And I'm very puzzled because the problem appears that I don't have enough storage on my iPad, but when I look at the settings under general, I have 60 gigabytes used and my machine has 256 gigabytes. So I'm very puzzled how come I've only used about a quarter of the capacity. It's already said storage is full. Tried deleting some apps, don't seem to work, so I might have to delete video files and maybe photographs. Maybe video files, you know, because they're much larger than photographs. So there'll be a whole bunch of video files that I'll be deleting. And hopefully iMovies would work. Or maybe iPhotos. I prefer to use iPhotos because it's very simple. You don't need to see any instruction manual or whatever. Okay, I'm gonna finish this soup, call it a day. I'm hesitant to call this a fasting mimicking soup, but as you can see from the ingredients, they're very low calorie. So what do you call it? It's just for the taste and the water and the fiber, basically. The rest of the ingredients are low calorie. Okay, that's it for today. See you next time. Bye.